Microsoft announced their new cloud PC offering last week called Windows 365. It's like Microsoft's Xcloud game streaming service, but for your Windows desktop. The concept of a virtual desktop streamed from a server is hardly new. Microsoft themselves have been delivering Windows this way for decades with remote desktop and more recently with Azure Virtual Desktop. And that's not to mention Citrix, who've been doing the same and streaming Windows desktops and apps for decades too. Sun, Oracle, IBM, and even Apple were into network computers back in the 90s. Basically, the network computer was similar to what we're talking about here. All of the processing is done in the cloud on big high-end servers and networks and delivered to you on a simple low-power terminal. At the time, network computers were slated to overtake Windows PC as the future of the desktop computer. But the network computer went the way of the dinosaur in favor of cloud-based apps. That is, apart from Windows-based solutions that live on. According to Microsoft, the difference with Windows 365 compared to other solutions like Azure Virtual Desktops and Citrix is that it's easier to discover, set up and manage than ever before. That'll have a lot of appeal to IT departments looking for remote desktop type solutions. Now, I haven't tried Windows 365 yet, and I'm not much interested to, and I'll tell you why. As a Windows trainer in the corporate and government worlds, I come across many organizations who rely on remote desktop type solutions. And they're great if you think of your people, called end users in the IT world, as mechanical drones who simply send emails and chat messages with GIFs and emojis. Nothing wrong with those, by the way, but if that's all you're expecting from your people, then you're not expecting much. In reality, most end users need to do much more than that. Anyone who uses Office apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint is involved in thinking and creative work, and they need more than a keyboard and a mouse. And that's where these types of solutions tend to fall over immediately. Microsoft's Windows 365 announcement video and the Microsoft Mechanics video were both very light on detail around rich input from touch, pen, voice, and camera. So I'm not expecting much. Remote desktops are typically bad at touch, pen, and voice input due to the latency of the connection from the device to the server. And although there have been many improvements to streaming services over the years, not to mention mobile broadband and broadband in general, they're still unlikely to deliver a good solution for rich input. Remember that thinking work is done with a pen. Now, a remote desktop will do just fine for keyboard and mouse input with even a pretty thin internet connection. But when input goes beyond those simple mechanical functions, it tends to break down with lag. Now, as an IT representative, you might say, but our end users only like to use a keyboard and mouse. And I'm sorry that you're wrong. Well, sort of. It's not that your end users like to use a keyboard and mouse. Rather, it's that they're operating in a vacuum of knowledge, assuming that that's all they can do on a work PC. We've shown on our channel how collaborating with a pen is especially important for developing your best ideas. The science shows that using low formality, visual and spatial ink on a computer leads to better memory, mental processing and understanding than just a keyboard and mouse. This in turn leads to better solutions, better proposals and presentations. But if you go down the cloud PC path, then you're locking your people into keyboard-centric thinking, which is bad for everyone. That is, until more effort is put into some sort of hybrid processing model for cloud PCs where some things like pen and voice input are processed at the local device level without the extra lag time. That said, now that I've given it a good solid knocking, there is a place for a cloud-based virtual desktop like Windows 365. For example, this could be a great solution to access high-end scalable computing power on a lightweight device like my Surface Pro X. And that might be useful for tasks like CAD design, video editing, and mathematical work where high-end processing power is needed. The Windows 365 solution also boasts a 10 gigabit internet connection, so it'd be very handy for solution developers working with large data sets, working remotely on a relatively slow internet connection. Windows 365 could also be a great, easy to manage solution for organizations that really do have people that don't need anything more than a keyboard and mouse. But I don't believe that there are truly many of them, at least not in modern workplaces. In the Microsoft Mechanics video, Scott Manchester demos the solution on his Surface laptop and his iPad. I'll leave a link below. And he says, this is a typical combination for many travelers. Now imagine dealing with keeping your PC, your iPad, and your cloud PC all up to date with patches and synced with the files and information that you need while you're traveling in another country trying to limp along using hotel Wi-Fi. Sorry, but that's just a janky, overweight travel nightmare. Personally, you couldn't do any better to sell me on a single solution like a well-deployed Surface Pro. And I know that lugging around an iPad and a clunky laptop is the reality for many companies who deploy solutions like this without really understanding what their people need to do. And when you're not prepared to invest in your people and upgrade their skills to best practice. Anyway, we'll leave some links to the announcement videos on Windows 365 below, and I'll also leave a link to a better way with our science behind the Surface Pen series. If you're interested in learning better ways of doing things, then make sure that you subscribe to our channel and hit that bell to get notifications of our weekly videos. If you agree with me, hit the like button, and tell us in the comments below if your company forces you to use Citrix or some form of remote desktop solution.